Hey guys, welcome to Cape and Cowl Cafe. I'm Nemo, and today we're going to be talking about what I want to see from the DCU Batman. If you guys enjoy the video at any point today, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, but let's hop right in. Okay, so we don't know much about this Batman movie, but we do know that it will likely be titled Batman the Brave and the Bold. It will start filming in 2027. Christina Hodson is set to write, and she has recently received some backlash because of her previous work on movies like The Flash, Birds of Prey, and Bumblebee. Not really great movies, but I'm going to reserve my judgment till I see more because I know that studio interference can have a lot to do with a creative's work getting all messed up. Andy Muschietti is set to direct, and I know a lot of people are upset about that because he directed The Flash, which is a very, very, very bad film. But, he also directed the It movies and the Welcome to Derry series, so he could add some really interesting horror elements into a Batman movie. I'm going to save my judgment until I see more.
Nobody still lives inside of me.
We also don't know who's going to play Batman, and there are a wide variety of fan casts floating around, but it all kind of depends on what age Batman is going to be in this movie. Now, it has been rumored that Brave and the Bold will feature Damian Wayne as Robin, so I'm being led to believe that this will be an older Batman. However, I think it would make sense to have Batman start off with his earlier years to kind of fit in with the Superman movie a little more. Now, some options we have for a younger Batman include people like Nate Mann, Jake Picking, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then for an older Batman, you could go with someone like Jensen Ackles or Brandon Sklenner. There's tons of options. I have my favorites. I'm sure you do too. So I don't really know. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, this list will mostly consist of the aesthetic elements that I would like to see in a Batman movie. I'm not really going to be focusing too much on the writing. Of course, we all want good writing. That's a given. I'm mostly going to be focusing on the subjective stuff that helps flesh out Batman and his world. Let's get started. Now, when it comes to the Batsuit, I would love to see something that looks like a mixture of these three options. Obviously, the one on the far right is heavily inspired by the art from the new Matt Fraction Batman run. If you haven't checked it out yet, please go read it. It is so good and the art is so beautiful. Jorge Jimenez is the GOAT. Now, what I want to take from this suit is the concept of having the symbol be the same color as the cape and cowl and the trunks and the boots. I think it just looks so good. I wouldn't use this blue though. While the blue on the Matt Fraction suit is really nice to look at, I think it's a little too bright for what we're trying to go for here, so I'm gonna have to go with the dark blue from the left option. I think this is a perfect middle ground for people who want black and people who want the bright blue. Now, for those of you who are about to say, oh, but Batman should be wearing black because he's a ninja and it's more stealthy than blue. Actually, if you look at the science, dark blue blends in better with the night sky than black does, so blue's actually more stealthy, sorry. Now, if you guys know me at all, you know I'm going to have to go with the trunks. They just look awesome. They're classic. And my argument for having the trunks is that he just looks naked without them, If you look at designs like the New 52 and the Rebirth Batsuit, they just look a little off, The Rebirth Batsuit would be my favorite design of all time if it had trunks. It's that good. I also think that the trunks in this concept art is just perfect. It's the perfect length. I don't really like it when they do the long boxers, kind of like in the long Halloween Batsuit. I think that looks a little off. This is perfect. Now, when it comes to the symbol, I know a lot of people are fans of the yellow oval, and I like it too. It's just not my favorite, so I'm gonna have to stick with a design closer to the Matt Fraction Batman one. Just a basic bat symbol. It's gonna be a dark blue to match the rest of the suit, but I am gonna add a yellow trim around it, kind of like the Rebirth suit, because Batman does need a splash of color, I also want the white eyes on the Batman costume. I know, I understand. A lot of people say, oh, but you gotta see the eyes to, see the emotion in the performance. But that's not really true at all. I mean, look at The Mandalorian. They went a whole season without showing his face once, and he was able to convey so much emotion in that role. Plus, I feel like Batman would just choose to have the white eyes. He's all about theatrics and fear, and so why would he choose to show his eyes when he could have scary, glowing white ones, I don't know. It just makes more sense for a fantastical Batman. Okay, so moving on to the bodysuit, I am okay with a little bit of armor. I feel like that's bound to happen when you're designing a live-action Batman suit, but it should mostly be fabric. And I don't mean spandex, obviously. I think it should be a thicker canvas-type fabric material, kind of like the suit from Batman v Superman, just without all that scratchy texture on it. Now, when it comes to the belt, obviously it has to be yellow. It's going to match that yellow trim around the symbol. It just adds that splash of color. It looks great. But what people argue about the most is pouches versus capsules. I say have them both. because I think Batman realistically needs both pouches and capsules to hold all the gadgets that he has. Obviously, he would use the capsules for stuff like smoke pellets, and then the pouches could hold things like scanners and explosive gel, batarangs, all that good stuff. So I think a well-rounded utility belt would be the best way to go instead of just having it all be one thing. Now, when it comes to what's inside of Batman's belt, I want to see a wide array of gadgets. I mean a lot. I feel like Batman's arsenal of weapons has been heavily underrepresented in the movies. Like, yeah, I know we've seen some, but he doesn't really use them in combat a lot, besides like the warehouse scene. Batman is a very versatile fighter and he uses tons of gadgets all the time. So I want to see all kinds of things like smoke bombs, different kinds of batarangs, the bat claw, explosive gel, hacking devices, zip lines, lasers, listening devices, tasers, knockout gas, lockpicks, everything, alright? This is Batman we're talking about. Batman needs to come across as a guy who is prepared for everything. And the best way to convey that is having him have a gadget for every situation. Okay, maybe not everything, he shouldn't be Adam West. But still, you know what I mean. Alright, now let's talk about the best part of any Batman suit, the cape. I want Batman's cape to be long and flowy and be able to wrap around himself. I essentially just want the cape from the Batman 2004. I know that that might be a little unrealistic to achieve in live action, so what we're gonna do is just make Batman's cape CGI. Now, I know that might sound crazy to some of you, but they've already been doing this for decades. I mean, in the new Superman movie, most of the shots of him flying, he has a CGI cape. He's not wearing one. This would just make it way easier to achieve those impossible physics and achieve that unrealistic Dracula-like Batman look. I mean, every shot that we've seen of Batman in animation where he's all wrapped up in the cape and the rest of it's flowing in the wind, that is really hard to achieve in live action, you know? Capes don't move like that in real life, so animating it would be way easier. And it would allow us to have capes that look like this. I think Batman deserves to have that mythical creature of the night look, and I think the best way to achieve that is to give him a long-ass cape. Like, come on. Also, just a side note on the cape. If people are just set in stone on having a black batsuit, that's fine. I understand that. But you could also make the inside of the cape blue and give the suit a BTAS look. Like, that would be awesome. Alright, next up, let's talk about the Batmobile. I feel like the Batmobile has just always been a little off in movies. As much as I love Robert Pattinson's Batmobile, that really only works for an early days Batman. I mean, it's just a car, you know? And obviously, the Tumbler sucks ass. Batman should never drive a tank. That's also why I hate the Arkham Knight Batmobile and the Dark Knight Returns Batmobile. And obviously, the 1989 Batmobile is the exception. That one is just perfect. Batman should be driving a stylized race car, essentially. Now, I personally love a Batmobile with a longer, more slim body, kind of like the BTAS Batmobile or the second version of the Batman 2004 Batmobile. However, you can kind of just take all of these inspirations right here, mash them together, make one ultimate live-action Batmobile. It would be sick. I'm just tired of seeing cars and tanks, you know? Alright, next let's move on to the Batcave. Now, I also don't think that there has been a really good Batcave in live action. Christian Bale's, boring. Robert Pattinson's, just an abandoned train station. Michael Keaton's was alright, it had the right vibe, but we didn't really get to see that much of it, so it was kind of empty. And then Ben Affleck's, I don't even really see that as a Batcave. It just looks weird. There's too much lighting, if that makes sense. It looks like a studio apartment. What I want is a huge Batcave with multiple levels, and you have the circular platforms and the giant Bat computer, and you can have a section for all the different Batmobiles. Of course, I want the Batmobile that I mentioned earlier that's kind of a mix of all of those, you know, cool animated ones. But if you want to add other Batmobiles as kind of like his museum, I guess, you can have a whole row of Batmobiles that he's used over the years. That would be awesome. Now, if this is Batman later in his career, you could have a whole section full of previous Batsuits, and you could have the glass cases with the Robin suits and all the Bat family stuff. And of course, you have to have all the classic trophies, the dinosaur, the giant penny, the playing card. Like, you could have a whole section with a bunch of little glass cases filled with different weapons and trinkets from all of his different villains. You could have a Riddler trophy if you want to add a fun Easter egg. You could have one of the Penguin's hats. You could have one of Catwoman's whips. There's all kinds of different trophies that you could add, and it would just be, oh, like, I just want it, you know? We haven't had a good Batcave yet, like, come on. But the feature that I would love to see in the Batcave the most is actually something that debuted in the Batman 2004 show. I know I've brought that up a lot this video. It's just a goated Batman show, like just go watch it. But anyway, I want to see the magnetic fire poles from that Batcave. That was just so cool. He's got a magnet in his hand or something, and he grabs onto the pole and it like lifts him up to the different platforms. It is just, that would be so peak. Obviously, it's a reference to the 1966 series with the classic Batman and Robin fire poles, but just modernized in a way that is just so cool. Alright, the next thing that I want to see is the Bat family. Obviously, everyone wants to see the Bat family. It has been a long time coming. I mean, Batman and Robin and Batman Forever doesn't really count because they had a college-age man, a grown-ass man playing Robin. Like, come on. I want to see Nightwing. I want to see Red Hood. I want to see Barbara Gordon. I want to see Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. I want to see all of them. You know, if they choose to tell a story where Batman's in his early days, it would be great to see a early days Dick Grayson as Robin and where he's actually a child. And, you know, I would love to see Damian Wayne. I would love to see a 16-year-old Tim Drake. I just don't want to see a grown-ass man playing Robin. You know, I don't want Chris O'Donnell and I don't want that dumbass cameo from the end of The Dark Knight Rises, okay? I want to see the Bat family. I understand the love for early days Batman stories where he's by himself. I get it. The Long Halloween, Batman Year One, they're peak. But that's not who Batman is supposed to be forever. He is supposed to be part of a family. Like, come on. Honestly, I kind of see it the same way that people see Spider-Man. A lot of people assume that Spider-Man is supposed to always be a high schooler. But he was only in high school for like the first few issues of his original run. And, you know, the same way that Batman was only a loner for the first 3 years of his career. That's it. After year 3, he gets Robin, and then everyone else comes in later. So, like, why has every movie depicted him as a loner? It just doesn't make sense. Alright, now, the last thing that I would love to see in a DCU Batman movie is a good, stylized Gotham City. I don't know what that would look like. All I know is I just don't want to see boring-ass, bland Chicago from The Dark Knight. You know, I think Gotham City in Batman Begins was way better. It had way more personality. It actually looked like a terrible place to live. And that's what Gotham should look like. At least some of it, you know? I think the Batman had a pretty good Gotham City. They filmed a lot of their movie in Scotland, so they had a lot of that old Scottish architecture, which looked great for the Gothic vibe that Gotham's supposed to have, but it still looked like a modern day city, you know? I feel like that's a pretty good middle ground. If they did something a lot like that, I wouldn't hate it. Alright guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it all, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like and subscribe button, and drop in the comments down below what you would like to see for the DCU Batman. Let's talk about it. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later.